What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, Shaka Antoine. In today's video, it came about from a request that a follower on Instagram, and he's also a subscriber to my YouTube channel. Shout out to him. Well, his request was that I make a video where I'm eeling the 5 boroughs. So that's what this video is going to be, and it's just that simple. You make a request, as long as it's a video that I can do, I will go ahead and do it. So, Mohammed, this video is basically for you. I appreciate your comment and video suggestion. All right, so, but first, before we go any further, I want to remind you guys to please continue to smash that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, make sure it's on all so that you'll get notified when I come out with the next video. I greatly appreciate it. All right, so let's get straight into today's video. As I said, I really appreciate the video suggestion because this wasn't something that was planned for this off season. But, you know, hey, once you guys make a suggestion, like I said, I will go right ahead. I'm happy to make a video. All right, so with the title of this particular video is Eeling the 5 boroughs. Now, there's going to be a little bit of a disclaimer. Unfortunately, I can't recall ever eeling anywhere within the 5 boroughs of New York City. That is, unless, you know, not too many people call Long Island a part of the 5 boroughs. So that's Long Island is the closest place to anywhere of the 5 boroughs that I have eeled, and particularly Montauk, because of the boulder fields. You know what I'm saying? Boulder fields are a good place to be eeling. Though there are, you know, I could think of some places where you could potentially eel. You know, like the East River, that might be a nice place to eel, man, because you want to eel where you know where there are some big stripers, possibly some current. You know, there's a little bit of a recipe for eeling. Current is pretty good, big stripers, boulder fields, around rocks, you know, that sort of thing. Those are the sort of locations where, excuse me, you will find an eel bite jumping off, usually around that type of structure. So basically anywhere around where you have that, any of the inlets, the jetties, or where there's deep and fast moving water like the East River, I would imagine that should be a good place to do it. Although, you know, you may want to not use any weights because, man, that East River is unforgivable. The bottom, you never want to touch the bottom there. So unless you know the exact ounce you would need not to touch the bottom, then you could use something like maybe a drift rig, which I'll cover the drift rig later on in the video. Or you can also use perhaps an eel jig, which I like to use on the canal, or just go unweighted. You know, if you know that the fish are hanging within the top portion of the water column, unweighted might be the thing to do, or maybe not, or maybe the scenario where you'll just be unweighted and let the eel go all the way to the bottom. They're going to swim to the bottom for safety. All right, so getting into what I got here covered for this video. As I said, I don't particularly eel the 5 boroughs, but I do eel Montauk and Long Island. So I'm going to go over how I do those, how I eel in that location, because that's what I've done. That's the thing. All right, so eeling Montauk, I'm going to cover both from shore and from boat because that's what I've done. Now, eeling in Montauk is something that's, it seems nostalgic to me, at least. You know, I remember each time I am eeling in Montauk, I just feel this, I don't know, like I'm eeling on holy ground or something. You know what I'm saying? If you fish Montauk, you kind of have, there's a bit of, I don't want to use the word reverence, but there's, you know, fishing Montauk is a vibe. That's what the kids would say nowadays. You know, you sort of feel that vibe when you're there. So when I'm eeling, now eeling for stripers and Montauk, you want to use a rod that has some good backbone for two reasons. Number one, you want to use a bigger eel, at least that's my preference. And to cast those bigger eels, you're going to need a rod that has some backbone to it. And also, of course, to potentially fighting big fish, because big fish go after eels. Now, this doesn't just only work around Montauk, but anywhere where there are boulder fields, as I mentioned earlier. Those are prime structure and locations for eeling for stripers. All right, so that's why I believe Montauk works so well with eeling for stripers. Like I said, you want to use a beefy rod. That 2 to 6 that I use, the Penn Carnage 2 would be perfect. You know, the ratings, I would suggest that you do. I mean, you can get away with a 1 to 5, but as long as you have a rod that can handle upwards of 3 ounces, not none of those 1 1/4 to 3 ounces. I don't think, in my opinion, that is a good eeling rod. I think you need a rod that can at least handle 3 ounces. All right. So that's for the rod. You know, same setup as you would use your Van Staal Z-Bass, or in my case, a Goso Staal. You can use any particular reel. There's no really dire need to eel from shore with a particular reel. Now, what line from shore? I'm using 30-pound test, man. Some people go up to as far as the 65, but you know, again, castability, and you know, I'm going to be using the same rod that I will be plugging with. I personally don't feel the need to have a separate rod just for eeling, but you can if you. I'm saying if that's your preference. I know some people that would rather have a rod for every scenario, which is cool, but I'm not set up like that. So that's for the rod, the reel, yeah, like I said, and then the line. I will go with 30-pound, but you can go higher if you don't particularly care about casting. You're not going to be casting an eel pretty far, just so you know. In most scenarios, you don't even have to. Now, the leader that I am going to be using for eeling, especially a place like Montauk, my standard plug-in leader test is 50-pound green mono. And that's what I've always used. But, you know, you can go up because of the fact that you're in boulder fields. You can go up, especially in a place like Montauk, to, 65. I've actually used a 65 liter before. That was given to me by Travis, actually. God rest his soul. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. Wasn't too stiff. It was perfect, actually. So, and the knot that I would normally tie for that type of leader and setup will be a Palomar knot. I use a Palomar knot for just about everything except 100-pound test line. So yeah, Palomar, and then the small barrel swivel everywhere. Now, I don't tie direct to the hook that I'm using. Some people, you can, but typically, like, because I'm using the same rod setup that I will be plugging with, I find that it's more convenient to just put the hook that I'm going to use right on my TA clip as if it was a plug. I mean, depending upon the regulation of the year that we're in, will determine what type of hook I use. So if you're planning on eeling stripers, I suggest you check the regulations for the types of hooks. That's legal now. I don't understand using a circle hook from shore, but hey, that's what we're currently faced with. Otherwise, I would be using at least a 7-knot Gamakatsu hook. Yeah, at least a 7-knot, sometimes maybe even a 10. But 5 to 7, 5 might be a little on the small side, but 7-knot. Or I've even used in some places a 9. But I'll get to that in another video. Planning on doing another video. I'll be focusing on the gear used for fishing inlets. So stay tuned for that. All right, so that's basically the setup, the gear that I would use for eeling. So now I'm just going to talk about how the strategies that I use to eel with. And it's pretty much standard, but I found, man, that depending upon what state you're in, some people have some really different methods for eeling the stripers. With a Montauk, what I'm used to is, you cast that eel out there, ha! You know what I'm saying? You tighten up the line, and I like to keep my rod up high, and you get a slow, really slow, practically still retrieve, really slow roll. Just keeping the line tight. And if you get a hit, what I like to do is that bow to the cow method. I drop the rod, tighten the line. When the line goes tight, bam! Take his eyes out. Maybe I'll probably hit it a couple of times and make sure that hook is jammed in the fish mouth. And yeah, that method there I find works best. That's what I've learned, and that's what I primarily use. In some other cases, other states, man, I found that some people just like to cast the eel out and let it sit there and wait for the fish to come along and find the eel. It's crazy, but it works in a very specific place. So that's my method from fishing for eels, fishing with eels from shore. Now, eeling from a boat in Montauk, I don't know. You let me know in the comments below. Do boat fishermen eel for stripers anywhere else other than Montauk? Please let me know in the comments below. Because I remember one year, or a couple of years actually, a couple of trips I took with the captain here out west, and when I mentioned eels, are we going to use eels? The response was, "This ain't Montauk." Yo, that made me crack up so bad. I was like, what do you mean? What's the matter? Stripers don't hit eels out here? No, the answer was no. We use bunker. Like, all right, no problem. But it's what it is, Captain. But in Montauk, preferred method I prefer is using an eel from the boat. And the rig is like a big drift rig, wherein you'll have really long leader. Depending upon what year it was, but I know there was years where we used the J hooks. You have your eel hooked, and then you'll have this really long leader, and then the sinker, like a dropper sinker, pretty long as a matter of fact, not as long, but long enough. And you basically, you get out there on your drift, you set it out, and you don't let the sinker touch the bottom. When it does touch down the bottom, you reel up twice. And that basically will keep the eel close to the bottom, close enough to the bottom, but you don't want to drag your sinker, because Montauk, there's snags. It still is boulder fields, even out there in the deep, or in the rips, I should say. So you don't let the sinker touch the bottom. If it does, you reel up twice. Apparently, the stripers don't like how the reaction to that bouncing on the bottom, and plus the snag situation. And the method is pretty much similar. I don't keep the rod tip up, depending upon what type of hook I'm using. I'll just say if I'm using a J hook, I'll keep my rod tip down and just wait for the two thumps. When I feel them two thumps, like, yeah, I know I got a fish on there, and then I set the hook. But if I'm using a circle hook now, I'm not keeping the rod tip down. I'm really relaxed. I'm just waiting to feel the line go tight. And then when it does, I just reel down while I'll raise the tip and just fight the fish that way. So I drift eels from a boat using that type of setup, like a drift rig. Like I said, man, I don't know. I don't know if people, I mean, I'm pretty sure they do that in Block Island as well, but it's not too far away. But for some reason, boat captains out here in the West, they don't like to use eels. I would really like to know why is that. In the 5 boroughs, as I said in the beginning of this video, I don't use eels per se. But what I have and am a big avid fan of using are eel skin plugs, and preferably middle lip swimmers, especially in the springtime. I hope you guys are doing that. If not, you need to. Yeah, there was one season, man, one spring, man, I was on fire with the eel skin plugs. It was right after Captain Tom had helped me in Savannah to put the eel skin from the eel that Savannah caught one summer on a Beachmaster. Ron McKee's actually from Strapper Maniac, one of his eel skin plugs. Man, I did so well that spring with eel skin plugs. It really opened my eyes towards eeling, or not eeling, because technically it's not eeling, but using eel skin plugs in the springtime. Very effective, man. Them fish were just aggressively hitting it. Which goes to, I want to ask you guys another question. Let me know in the comments below. Do you feel that striped bass eat eels? This is the debate that I've had with quite a few people. And, you know, most people say no, they just kill the eels because it's their instinct. Eels eat their eggs or fry, whatever you want to call it. And the mother, the females, whenever they see an eel, they instinctively know to attack it, and with purpose of killing it, not eating it. That's why they always go after the head, pretty much. They smash the head and supposedly let it go. But I've caught a few, you know, bass that had a few skeletons in it that could only be an eel skeleton, you know? So, you know, that's the question. Let me know if you feel you're of the belief that stripers only kill eels, or do they also eat them? Let me know in the comments below. All right, well, that's going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or concerns about anything you may have seen in this video or on my channel, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. And if also, it is the off season, I'm pumping out off season videos with the idea of preparing for the next season. So these are off season preparation videos that I'm primarily focusing on. But if you have a video suggestion, please let me know in the comments below. All right, so please remember to have a blessed day and peace out.